Welcome to @Cronkite News, your social sharing connection where you choose the news. Facebook likes and shares, tweets, retweets, and favorites. YouTube views and subscriptions. We're watching you, watch us. From our digital home at cronkitenews.azpbs.org to your television, web browser, or mobile device. Let's get a refresh on the top Arizona news of the week.
The Phoenix VA Hospital presented its 7th new director in just 3 years today. Rima Ann Nelson met with both Senator John McCain and Representative Ann Kirkpatrick before a news conference. Jesse Canales has the reaction to the VA's new leader.
Senator John McCain released a statement today expressing concerns about Nelson's resume. She was in charge of the St. Louis VA, which had similar mismanagement issues at the Phoenix VA. Representative Kirkpatrick had similar issues, calling the appointment deeply flawed. The Office of Inspector General's report released Tuesday shows that there continues to be persistent delays in care and patient consults at the Phoenix VA hospital, thousands as recently as March. Today, the Phoenix VA presented a new permanent director to address the issues presented in the report about the system-wide problems found in 2014. Nelson was previously in charge of the St. Louis VA.
St. Louis actually has many similarities to the Phoenix VA system in terms of complexity, size, and scope. And it's there that we actually saw decisive leadership on the part of Ms. Nelson.
During her time in charge of the St. Louis VA, more than 1,800 veterans were exposed to hepatitis B and C, as well as HIV from a breach of VA cleaning protocols.
Staff were not following VA protocol on cleaning dental equipment. She immediately took action where she stopped the services in the dental clinic.
Nelson said she will do the same in Phoenix if she has to.
I cannot guarantee you quality and safety. When you walk into your VA, I'm going to shut things down. I'm a nurse, that's my background. And I want our employees to feel that they work within a culture of safety.
Shulkin said the report by the Office of Inspector General's information was outdated because they have hired over 700 new employees, but they still need more schedulers.
We are short medical schedulers. We have way too many vacancies, and there still are too many vacancies. It's one of the things that was pointed out in the Office of Inspector General report.
Some veterans say they still haven't seen many changes with scheduling since 2 years ago.
Nothing's really changed. The wait times are still taking forever. The budget's increasing. Care hasn't improved, wait times haven't improved.
Dobson says the choice card system will make it easier for veterans to schedule appointments at other patient care facilities. Maureen McCarthy was also presented as the new chief of staff for the Phoenix VA healthcare system. Nelson and McCarthy toured the hospital after the press conference. In the broadcast center, Jesse Canales, Cronkite News.
A new international program is starting its 2nd semester at ASU and has students earning credits alongside prisoners behind bars. Former students talked with reporter Joey Carrera about what it's like to learn alongside inmates serving time.
While traveling nearly 60 miles for a 3-hour class held in a prison may seem like an awful sentence, students who took the new Inside Out class feel like they hardly served enough time.
You have all these judgments about a prison, so you expect to walk in and see someone that's all tatted up and someone that just looks angry at you.
But after meeting just once a week for 3 hours, students on both sides of the bars formed close bonds, learning about the criminal justice system together. Temple University professor Lori Pompa developed the dual program in 1997. Since then, it has spread across the United States and around the world.
They have the opportunity to go inside the prison setting, to learn about these issues with people who are incarcerated, who've gone through the system. And then at the same time, these people that are in the system get to learn what it's like to be a college student.
Last spring was the first time the course was offered at Arizona State University. More than 80 students applied, but only 20 were chosen. As for the inmates, the Arizona Department of Corrections offered up a list of 20 screened inmates with a variety of criminal pasts.
This is medium security prison. We have safeguards in place that they have not engaged in any sort of misconduct within the last year or so. They can't have a crime of a sexual nature.
The students I spoke with all take criminal justice classes, but when it came to learning behind bars, they had no idea what it would be like in the big house or the connections they would have with their fellow classmates.
It's kind of crazy, you know, a prisoner who has supposedly done some heinous crime could be a support system for someone going through a really tough time.
The assignments and projects have been turned in and graded, but the experience will be locked in their hearts.
It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and that it'll be with me for the rest of my life.
Part of the course is to design and develop improvements for the incarceration system. Today, the former students learned that their projects will be used to help prisoners. Joey Carrera, Cronkite News.
Navigating social media can be especially difficult for teachers. Where do you draw the line between communication and complication? Cronkite News reporter Alicia Gonzalez helps answer that question.
I spent some time at Vista College Prep to see how teachers are using social media. I found many use it in their personal life, but keep it separate from their professional one. Talk to any kid here, and they're on Snapchat, Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. And some think it should be in their classroom as well.
Because teachers can remind their scholars to do something if they're working and during independent.
But others prefer face-to-face.
We can just chat to the teachers or our friends at school or anywhere else where we meet.
An online survey conducted back in April 2016 by the Harris Poll on behalf of the University of Phoenix found that 83% of K-12 teachers use social media in their personal lives, but only 35% use it professionally to communicate with colleagues, students, and parents. The poll had about 1,000 responses. Third grade teacher Angela Coleman thinks connecting on social blurs the lines.
Just the professional versus personal relationship. I want the relationship with everyone here at VCP to be professional with my scholars, and I'm not their peer. I want to be seen as their teacher, and I want to be seen as that role model rather than a friend in their life.
Sam Shapiro, the school's manager of special projects, says the school's current policy doesn't allow teachers and students to become friends on social platforms.
I think in an academic setting, there's existing platforms that can probably do that for a school better than Facebook can. So whether it's Blackboard, where you can actually share attachments and comment on them and kind of have an academic discourse there, I think that'd be a more appropriate place to do it.
And the students share their concern.
If one teacher shares a photo that if she's confused about it to another teacher and the scholars might see it about a test, and the scholars might get the answers for the test.
Shapiro also said he thinks everyone's still trying to figure out what the best policy is. But until then, they want to err on the side of caution. In the Broadcast Center, Alicia Gonzalez, Cronkite News.
The Valley is home to a lot of food from around the world, including fusion restaurants that combine cuisine and culture. A new report by the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce shows Latinos spend more per capita than other groups eating out, and that influences the kind of restaurants we're seeing here in Phoenix. Cronkite News reporter Yami Flores sunk her teeth into the world of Mexican sushi.
This is one of many restaurants in Phoenix that serves Mexican sushi. The rolls are a fusion between Mexican and Japanese ingredients.
You need a rice maker, you need seaweed, you need a fish, you need shrimp, you need cheese.
The idea originally started in Mexico. Hernan Rivera Jr. and his father were the first to bring it to Phoenix.
Mexican sushi basically is more spices, more steak, more chicken, and it's fully cooked and it's deep fried.
Sushi Sonora opened a second restaurant in March.
Most of our target marketing is for the people that don't eat raw fish.
Most of their customers are Hispanic and would much rather have cooked sushi.
We do like the traditional one, but fried is our favorite.
During the week, they get a lot of to-go orders, but it's on the weekend when people wait up to an hour to try their most common dishes, such as cielo, mar y tierra.
The recipe is a combination of steak, chicken, shrimp with avocado, and cream cheese.
El sushi.
This customer's favorite sushi is the deep-fried shrimp. The appetite for Mexican sushi is growing. The Riveras now face competition from at least 9 similar restaurants. In Phoenix, Yami Flores, Cronkite News.
Navajo Nation lawmakers will soon discuss the fate of the Grand Canyon Escalade project. Cronkite News reporter Caitlin Greno tells us what happens next.
The proposal is to build a tram and other tourist attractions on the Navajo Reservation where the Little Colorado River and the Colorado meet. The Save the Confluence group said the Escalade would harm sacred land.
our culture, our way of life. It's under threat of a desecration because the developer chose not to listen, chose to tell us that the site where you pray is not a sacred space.
The Confluence partners are developing the Escalade project.
You can have a project that improves the lives of our people and then also retain the beauty of our land.
The Confluence partners say the Grand Canyon Escalade project would bring in about 3,000 jobs and boost economic development for this generation and generations to come.
We have to think 20 years into the future, 60 years, 100 years into the future. How will we be? We have thousands of people who are unemployed who have signed and said, I want this project to come through and I want a job.
Others oppose this project because they believe the natural environment should not be touched.
We don't support it because of the implications of the disturbances that it will create in the natural beauty of the Grand Canyon. How do you compare a few jobs to the destroying of nature, as it were?
Save the Confluence says some things are more important than jobs.
We need jobs, but not at the expense of our culture.
No end yet in sight to this battle over the development at the Grand Canyon. In Phoenix, Caitlin Greno, Cronkite News.
The next public hearing is scheduled for October 10th. Then the final decision is up to the Navajo Nation Council.
Libertarian presidential candidate and former New Mexico Governor Gary Johnson held a rally in Phoenix over the weekend. He's trying to reach the presidential debate stage by attaining that magic number of 15% of voter approval in polls. Jesse Canales tells us how Johnson is separating himself from the other two candidates.
A crowd of people packed the Phoenix Airport Marriott Hotel for a rally. Only 200 RSVP'd, but hundreds showed and bunched together in the warm room, all to see Libertarian presidential candidate Governor Gary Johnson. One woman collapsed due to the heat. Johnson showed concern for her.
She's all right. She just fell over.
As the rally went on, he made clear he does not believe a wall should be built between the U.S. and Mexico. Before the rally began, he spoke to the media about immigration.
I think we should be embracing immigration. The deportation of 11 million undocumented workers is just crazy. It's going to impact Arizona.
Johnson also gave his support for the Black Lives Matter movement.
Black lives do matter, and they matter for a reason. They're getting shot at the rate of 6 times that of whites. There is discrimination.
Rally goers cheered Johnson's policies that focus on inclusion of others and his take on free market policies.
I think Gary Johnson represents that voice, a more socially inclusive, tolerant, understanding.
And Gary Johnson is the only one talking about being fiscally responsible with our taxes and our money.
Johnson also made light of his recent gaffes about what is Aleppo and not being able to name one foreign leader.
You know, that's a function on Google that lasts about 5 seconds.
Johnson also said he does agree with his running mate William Weld that Hillary Clinton is the most qualified candidate on paper, but says she is unfit ethically and Donald Trump is not qualified for the position. From Phoenix, Jessica Canales, Cronkite News.
Governor Johnson says he has no plans of dropping out of the race, but he did say that he will not be running for president in 2020.
Tonight, an investigative report on a growing danger in prescription drug abuse. Cronkite News is dedicated to tracking the use of opioids across Arizona. The highly addictive drugs not only affect the user, but their loved ones as well. One of those drugs is fentanyl. Investigative reporter Carla Lariano is in the broadcast center with the troubling trend.
It's the drug that killed Prince earlier this year. Just a few grains of fentanyl can be deadly. As part of our ongoing project on drug addiction, I found out what makes this drug so dangerous when it gets out on the streets. Just this year, Pima County has seen 260 opioid overdose victims come through this morgue. Medical examiner Greg Hess says more and more of those deaths involve a dangerous painkiller called fentanyl.
When that type of drug enters the supply for people that are substance abusers,
they have a increased propensity to overdose on that medication because it's more potent than what they're used to.
Pima County had 7 fentanyl-related deaths in 2014. That number jumped to 17 in 2015.
Essentially, it reflects the prevalence of the drug in the community, as we were describing. So the way that the drug is smuggled into the United States and where it goes and who's buying it and who's distributing it.
In the medical field, fentanyl is meant only for patients suffering from the most severe pain, but it's also causing concern among law enforcement who are seeing it in drug busts across the country.
What we suspect is that large quantities of fentanyl, pure fentanyl, are arriving into the country, and then it is being used to adulterate tablets.
Agents with the Drug Enforcement Administration say fentanyl originates in China, is smuggled into the U.S. from Mexico, and often disguised as prescription pills or mixed in with other street drugs.
The traditional dose that a heroin user takes, if it's got fentanyl in it, it will kill you. And you won't even know it's there sometimes, but it will kill you.
This poses a threat to the officers who seize these drugs.
Counterfeit tablets, they appear to be one drug, but when we go to analyze it, we find that there's fentanyl in that. So law enforcement who might stumble across it in a traffic stop or something and accidentally get exposed could have some very dangerous effects.
But fentanyl abuse isn't limited to just street drugs.
There's always the risk for the diversion of pharmaceutical-grade fentanyls from hospitals, medical practitioners, and even patients.
This father of 5 started using fentanyl while working as a nurse anesthetist. After administering it to a patient, he injected it into his own arm.
The heavens parted, the angels sang, those temporary problems that I was experiencing went away. And just for a few minutes, life was okay again.
6 months later, he sought treatment for his addiction.
This disease doesn't discriminate. It can touch anyone. You can be a priest, you can be a minister, you can be a high school arts teacher, you can be the doctor that you go see for your ailments.
Stewart's decision to go seek treatment allows him to keep his job where he still treats patients every day. With the investigative team, Carla Liriano, Cronkite News.
A proposed change to an ordinance in Glendale could allow homeowners to raise unlimited amounts of chickens in their backyard, as long as they have 4,000 square feet of land. Cronkite News reporter Caitlin Greeno shares the benefits and the drawbacks if this ordinance passes.
Well, contrary to what the pro-chicken people would like us to believe, chickens do smell.
Michelle Tennyson is a realtor in Glendale. She says allowing to raise chickens in backyards would decrease property values in the homes she sells.
If I'm showing a house and I walk in the backyard and there's a chicken coop next door, I can tell you right now that unless I have somebody who purposely wants to live in a neighborhood with chickens, we're not going to spend more than 5 seconds in that house.
The ordinance is making a few changes. If approved, it would allow residents to raise chickens in all single-family residential zoning districts of the city and removing the limits on the number of chickens in those zoning areas.
As long as you upkeep them, you keep the pen clean, you provide fresh food and water daily, you have a minimal amount, the smells, the noise, it's all irrelevant when it comes to backyard poultry.
Other Glendale residents are concerned about the noise.
I can just see that it's going to be a lot of noise. We're going to have more coyotes, hawks, flies. It's going to be a potential danger to have a chicken in my yard or any of my neighbors' yards.
Pratt's Pets and Feed is located in Glendale, and the general manager there wanted to debunk some chicken myths.
One of the common misconceptions with poultry is that they're actually loud, which is actually not true at all. Poultry are actually quiet at night. They don't make any sounds, they roost, so you don't have the nuisance of noise from you would like a barking dog.
No date has been set for when the ordinance will be voted on. In Glendale, Caitlin Greeno, Cronkite News.
A major change to next year's FAFSA means soon-to-be college students can apply for federal aid earlier. Students at Central High School had the opportunity to attend a FAFSA Fiesta today in hopes of bringing college into reach.
And the FAFSA and a survey at the end of it. So those are your 3 goals for today.
Senior Terry Gardner already received a track scholarship from Michigan State University, but he also has his eyes set on the criminal justice program at Rutgers. To help get him there, He's joining the party and filling out his FAFSA.
Growing up now, not everybody can afford college. If they can get the FAFSA, to definitely help them go to college.
Parents and students at Central High School spent their afternoon at a FAFSA Fiesta to encourage current seniors to apply for college. The event has been around for 3 years, but needed a more festive atmosphere to boost interest.
A lot of our families, college might not be at the forefront of their mind. It might not be their biggest priority. And so if the students can get some help financially to go to college, a lot easier for those families, and maybe college becomes a bigger deal.
Starting in the 2017-2018 school year, students will be able to submit a FAFSA in October, 3 months earlier than this year, and they will also be asked for income information from the previous tax year instead of the upcoming year. Grand Canyon University admissions counselor Stephen Valdez says events like this keep students informed about their opportunities.
Me, I didn't have anybody helping me out, so GCU understands building relationships, and through that, being able to accomplish things such as the FAFSA, and not just that, but college applications.
Although Gardner doesn't plan to apply to GCU, he recognizes the importance of seizing every opportunity and, most of all, knowledge.
Give them more opportunities to go further in life and do what they want to do.
FAFSA says these changes will help line up the financial aid application with the college application process, eliminate the need for parents and students to predict future income, and will allow students more time to apply for aid.
From the rivers in China to the banks of Tempe Town Lake, dragon boat racing is a growing sport in the valley, and reporter Anthony Marroquin took a look at an upcoming race to see what all the hype is about.
We're friends. We're friends, and it's great.
Trisha, Carol, and Donna have been friends for over 4 years. As breast cancer survivors, they formed a support group to help other women in similar situations. But this isn't your typical support group.
We're paddlers.
The three are part of the Abreast in the West dragon boat racing team. They say paddling helps them prevent complications that many breast cancer survivors have to deal with, like swelling of the arms and legs caused by lymphedema. And that's paddling, not rowing.
Rowing, you go backwards. Paddling, you are always moving forwards. We continue to move forward.
Just 13 years ago, dragon boat racing was all but non-existent in the Phoenix metro area. Now, it's attracting people of all ages and walks of life looking to scale up their hobbies.
The festival itself started with only 20 teams, and now we have over 80 teams.
The Arizona Dragon Boat Association held its first festival in 2003. It started with just a niche community and 6 boats shipped directly from China. Now it has 16. Many teams at the festival are made up of novice racers from the community, looking to build new relationships while having fun.
Even though we're competing during the dragon boat races, we're actually a very tight-knit community.
But for Abreast in the West, this is more than just a bonding and celebratory event. It's about reminding each other that they are not alone in their fight.
And if one paddler gets tired or weak or needs to pull their paddle in for any reason, you've got 19 sisters in the boat that are going to carry you through that rough patch.
Proving that the strength in numbers is that you are one. In Tempe, Anthony Marroquin, Cronkite News.
Now, here's an @Cronkite News Pick of the Week, a favorite from the Cronkite News staff.
In northern Arizona, in the middle of a volcano, sits an art installation 40 years in the making. Even though it's just hours away, you've likely never heard of it. Reporter Sabella Scalise is in Washington, where the artist behind that creation talked today about his life's work.
James Terrell has been manipulating light for decades to make art inside small spaces and museums. But the light installation he was talking about today at the museum plays out on a somewhat grander scale.
So I didn't have a pharaoh to build a pyramid, so we just took God's work. that was good enough.
The work Terrell is talking about isn't a pyramid, but it is the Rodan Crater, a volcanic crater in northern Arizona. By tunneling and covering parts of the crater, he hopes to challenge light from the heavens into the underground. He calls it the place where the cosmos meet the earth.
So actually light is a space maker, and this idea that I could actually use it even close to people to actually control where you saw and didn't see.
Terrell's discussion was part of the White House's South by South lawn event, which was held to celebrate innovation. Terrell spoke with the architect of the new African American History Museum in Washington on the challenges of creating works on a grand scale.
This idea of a kind of understanding of where you are, a way of making a sensation of place, a way of being able to understand the world, still not just the world as a kind of large phenomenon, but the world specifically where you are. And I think light is like one of the powerful mediums.
Terrell began his work on the rodent crater in 1977, and he shrugged off questions today about a completion date. But one museum curator who has seen his smaller works said the final project will be worth the wait.
It's so different because it's not an actual object, but it's all about perception. And in the perception, it's a perception of light, and you see different things at different times, and it changes constantly. So it's really, it's something that is very hard to capture in photography. You really have to go and see it.
The crater will be closed to the public during construction, but Terrell is currently raising funds to finish the project. Live in Washington, Sabella Scalise, Cronkite News.
Cronkite News tracks your likes, tweets, and shares from all our social sites to bring you this news special at Cronkite News, our weekly refresh. Join the conversation so you choose the news. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, subscribe to us on YouTube, and log on to cronkitenews.azpbs.org for top Arizona stories anytime.
5 terms in the Senate, 3 terms in the House, 2 figureheads of Arizona politics, 1 debate before Election Day. Arizona PBS and the Arizona Republic bring you the 2016 U.S. Senate debate for the state of Arizona. Republican Senator John McCain and Democratic Representative Ann Kirkpatrick face to face on the future of our state, our nation, our world. McCain versus Kirkpatrick, the 2016 U.S. Senate debate for the state of Arizona, Monday, October 10th at 7 p.m. here on Arizona PBS.